Thanks for tuning in to the Todd Allbaugh Show on Tuesday, February 18th. February. Todd voted today. I have not yet. We have about 30 seconds to the show.
All right, very good.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board, our chief engineer, producer of the show. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Welcome in, everybody, at the world headquarters of Civic Media in downtown Madison. Sunny skies, blue skies above, but boy, howdy, it is chilly out there, and not something to necessarily even joke around about. Some cold weather warnings are out for much of the state. I know people in northern and western parts of Wisconsin, many school districts today called off classes simply because, number one, of course, partly because, cars and buses don't always start when it's 30 below zero. But I think more importantly, a lot of young kids are at bus stops and this sort of thing. And boy, you get down to 30 below, you're outside more than 10 or 15 minutes. You could freeze or get real serious frostbite. And so out of health concerns for kids, many school districts in northern and western Wisconsin closed schools for today. Those cold temperatures will continue on. Our meteorology service says many of those watches and warnings for cold temperatures last into tomorrow. But then things start to get a little better, maybe temperatures in the teens and mid-20s towards the end of the week, and might even break 40 degrees by the time we get to Sunday in some places. So that's good news, but if you have to be outside today, please prepare for it. Bundle up. If you're driving, as Mom says, make sure you got a full tank of gas. Your cell phone is charged, and be safe out there today. Also, it is election day, primary election day. Todd cut it close getting into the studios today, but I wanted to go vote because I want to make sure that I could come on the air today and say I'd voted. And of course, I'm not going to lie to you and make it up. So I cut it a little close, but I got in. It literally took me, I don't even know if it was 5 minutes to get in there, get my ballot, vote, and get out. And I got my little sticker this time around. They have a new sticker this time. It says, "Every vote matters." So I have my voting sticker on today. I was voter number 134 in my ward on the near south side of Madison about half an hour ago. Back in the producer engineer chair today. He's feeling better. We're glad to have him back. Of course, always enjoy Sam Davidson when he steps in, but nothing better to have Mr. Zommers back in the chair. Welcome back, Mr. Zommers. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Todd. Feeling a lot better.
Yeah.
I had a swollen throat over the weekend, and lymph nodes on only the left side were swelling up really big and making it like painful to swallow. And I was like, I should probably see a doctor now that it's getting difficult to swallow. But then today, after sleeping basically all day yesterday and a lot the days before, I feel much better. And most importantly, I am no longer contagious, so I'm good to be in the office.
That's what I'm very happy to hear. Well, no, I'm happy to hear you're better. My grandma Allbaugh used to say, I think you were just done in.
I was.
You were just done in and you needed some rest.
But now we're good.
Good for you. Glad to have you back again. Many thanks for Sam Davison for stepping in, but great to have Zommers back in the chair. You have not voted yet today.
Correct. I'm going to after the show.
All right, very good. And then Zommers, I'll be back a little bit later this evening as a big night tonight here on Civic Media. We're going to be covering the Wisconsin biennial budget message from the governor. Of course, he had his State of the State last month. This focuses on the biennial budget. Not only that, it only happens once every other year. So it's the biennial budget. We will cover that live along with Dan Schaefer is going to be along helping me. He's actually going to be at the Capitol a block away, giving us live reports from the state capitol, and then joining us here at the anchor desk a block away afterwards. So Dan Schaefer, founder of the Recombobulation Area and Civic Media's political editor, will be here tonight along with me. I think we also have current Democratic State Senator Kelda Royce, who is on the Joint Finance Committee, and we have former Republican State Senator Rob Coles from the Green Bay area. They're both going to be joining us amongst other guests, and I believe maybe the Lieutenant Governor as well, Sarah Rodriguez. So big lineup tonight. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, we will have continuing coverage tonight after the polls close at 8 p.m. We will be along with Wisconsin Decides 2025. Again, the big race across the state is for school superintendent. You have Brittany Kinzer, the Republican-backed candidate, challenging incumbent Democrat Jill Underly and also Democrat Jeff Wright. And so two of those three will go on to the April 1st general election. Also a big mayoral primary up in La Crosse. Our own Jimmy Kuska is following that race. And also in Mauston. Mauston, for those that don't know, a smaller town or city, 10,000 plus or minus, maybe a little bit fewer than that. Anyway, just maybe 40 minutes north of Wisconsin Dells. And Mauston school district has gone to referendum at least twice, maybe three times. They're going back to referenda today to Mauston voters in Juneau County. And school officials, school board is saying if this one does not pass, they're going to have to consolidate and dissolve the current Mauston school district, which would be losing a lot of identity for the county seat in Juneau County. So we'll be watching that school referendum amongst many others. So invite you all along tonight. Should be a great day and evening here at Civic Media. Speaking of that, at 12:30, our very own Luke Mathers is going to be joining us here for a little Tuesday Tangents with Lukester. And I'm very excited in hour two, what's worse today, having to do with one of my huge loves of life, passionate about it, coffee. So tune in for that.
Certainly one of Todd's favorite things.
This today's What's Worse is perhaps the easiest What's Worse for me that we've ever had.
And I'm thinking we agree.
Probably. So we'll be on that as well. Big news day today, of course, just after we got off the air yesterday, that breaking news in Toronto as a Delta regional jet left the Minneapolis airport and flew to Toronto. Had to downplay it would be a hard landing, better characterized, I think, as a crash. But miraculously, this plane, if you've seen the video, it looked like it just had a overtly hard landing. It appears the landing gear was out. Investigators are going to have to find out. There were reportedly 40-mile-an-hour winds, but this plane just crashes right into the runway and then flips over. Both the wings and the tail break off, but the fuselage remains intact. It started on fire. Fire crews got there and started dousing it right away with fire suppressant. And thanks to the fantastic crew and the passengers, every single person on that plane was able to walk away. There are a couple of people who at last check were still listed in critical condition, but so far, no fatalities. Absolutely miraculous.
Yeah, thank goodness, especially after some of the tragedies we've seen recently. It's obviously horrible to see a crash, but good to see that everybody is still around.
And I saw this morning, one of the passengers was being interviewed, and he said, they asked kind of what his big takeaway was on something like this. And he said for him, it was that we all became just one people. Nobody cared about who you voted for or what your skin color was or what religion you were. We were just all there to help each other get off that plane.
If only we could get that without having to go through a plane crash.
Yeah. I've talked about this program before. I mean, for a brief time after 9/11 in 2001, that was the sense across the entire United States of America. And it lasted, I don't know, a couple of months. But I mean, it's euphoric, and it proves that we are all capable of it. And then you have to ask yourself, including me, what prevents us from continuing that, to your point, Zommers, without tragedy?
Right.
So, anyway, thankfully, everybody on that plane got off safely. That's, of course, the big news story. More nonsense continues out of Washington. Many more people being laid off there. We may get into that a little bit later with Luke Mathers. But I want to start today in our news stories with something much closer to home and much more impactful. Story today in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel by Dan Bice. It was actually came out yesterday afternoon. Headline: an Elon Musk-backed group buys at least $670,000 of TV airtime to support Brad Schimmel. Story by Dan Bice says conservative Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimmel said just recently he was hoping conservative third-party groups would start buying up TV time in the state, quote, very soon. Ask and you shall receive, writes Bice. Now, this is tantamount. Remember when Trump was running the first time in 2016? Remember when in a news conference, he said, Russia, if you're listening, I'd check out Hillary's emails. You're telegraphing things. And this is how you get around the law, because it's illegal to solicit directly third-party money like this. But you could be at a press conference and say things like, well, I really hope that some third-party groups start, buying up ads very soon. That's telegraphing without technically breaking the law. So back to this article, Bice says, ask and you shall receive. Federal records show building America's future. Doesn't that sound nice? Building America's future. An Elon Musk-backed dark money group began buying TV time in Wisconsin on Monday. The ads are expected to be in support of conservative Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimmel, who is running against liberal Supreme Court candidate Susan Crawford in the high-stakes April 1st election. The conservative nonprofit has already purchased more than $670,000 of airtime for the next 2 weeks. Over $750,000 for 2 weeks on TV stations throughout the state, according to Federal Communication Commission. That includes $255,000 in the Milwaukee market, $136,000 in Madison, and $104,000 in Green Bay, plus lesser amounts in La Crosse and Wausau. Building America's Future commercials are scheduled to begin airing Thursday, and run through March 5th. The amount of the group's buy is expected to rise in upcoming days. Also purchasing airtime on Monday was Fair Court America, a super PAC largely funded by Republican mega donor Richard Uihlein. His wife, Elizabeth Uihlein, has already donated $650,000 to the state Republican Party, money that was transferred to Schimmel's campaign. Another loophole, for those that might not be familiar, how to get around. See, there are caps on how much an individual can contribute to a candidate. But it turns out an individual can contribute as much as you want to a party. And then that party can transfer that same money right into the candidate's coffers. See how that works? As the church lady said over the weekend of the 50th anniversary of SNL. Well, isn't that convenient? Come on back. Talk more about Brad Schimmel. By the way, he supports the January 6th insurrectionists. We know that. It's the Allbaugh Show. Back with Zommers on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Steve in Milwaukee asks, why aren't more people talking about how Trump is a Russian asset? Everything he does, if you put in perspective of Putin's interest, makes his actions make sense. Weakens our country. Besides the huge grift, it's a huge layup to put Putin with Ukraine's stance. How many tariffs is he targeting with Russia? Great question, Steve. We're going to get more. I'm going to spend more time on foreign issues like that, international issues tomorrow with Trigby and Pat Kreitlow. So I just thought on election, I thought this was a big state story. It was breaking and, election day. So, but yes, great point. We'll talk some more international things tomorrow.
This joint pain therapy is available right now to the public, but only for qualified candidates. Again, to find out if you're a viable candidate for this therapy, you may request a free consultation by calling QC Kinetics at 608-384-0897. That's 608-384-0897.
The John and Gordy Show.
Hey, let's go to the phones. Dick is on the line. You can call us too, 608-879-TALK. Good morning, Dick. What do you got for us this morning?
Well, to the Gaza thing, I mean, his philosophy is this. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's as simple as that.
That's right.
There's no sovereign nation left in this planet.
That's right.
Weekday mornings, 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. The Dom Salvia Show.
Inflation has to go down. How would you suggest your president address that? He's not talking about the cost for Americans. Hell, everything is...
Doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 21 now past the hour of 12 noon on a Tuesday, Election Day, February 18th, 2025. Remember, the polls are open across Wisconsin until 8 p.m., 8 o'clock tonight. So make sure to be a voter, as our friend Luke Mathers says, who's going to be on the show here just after the bottom of the hour break. Big race for state school superintendent. You have Jill Underly, the Democratic incumbent. Technically, it's a nonpartisan race, but supported by the Democratic Party. You have Jeff Wright, also a Democrat, endorsed and supported by teachers. And then you have Brittany Kinzer, who is the endorsed Republican in the race, private voucher person. So you have those three. Two of the three are going to get through tonight. We'll have coverage later on tonight here on Civic Media, along with Dan Schaefer and others. I'll be anchoring that, so join us a little bit later on tonight. Right now, talking about this story, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, written by Dan Bice, that Elon Musk is now playing in Wisconsin politics, and not just in a small way. $670. Probably 670,000. Pardon me. Big difference there, Todd.
Quite a bit.
Partner $250,000 that Elon Musk is putting into this Supreme Court race between Susan Crawford, the law and order candidate, and Brad Schimmel, the extremist who supports January 6th insurrectionists. So that's the difference in the race. And we've seen this now in Washington. And this is kind of how we can put what's happening in Washington and put it in a perspective that we can understand here in Wisconsin. Because a lot of people are saying, I don't understand these Republicans out there in D.C. They're not all idiots or schmucks. And why aren't these people speaking up? It's because, and also why aren't some of these people now we did see people resign from the Justice Department last week and into this week. Today, there were 3 or 4 Democratic deputy mayors in New York that resigned because they are not going to support this indicted Democratic mayor, Eric Adams, in New York. But a lot of people say, why aren't people having a bigger backbone? Well, a lot of it is Elon Musk is the richest person in the world. And he is threatening people and saying, I will use my money to come after you politically, legally, and personally if you cross me. That's what's going on. And now we're seeing it here, the chickens come home to roost in Wisconsin. Now, what does Elon Musk have to do with Wisconsin? As far as I know, he doesn't have a home here, doesn't pay taxes here. I know there are Tesla dealerships, but I don't think that any of his businesses are located in Wisconsin. But yet, he's spending almost $750,000 in television time to decide who our next Supreme Court justice is. And it's not just Elon Musk. It's also the U-Lines putting in $650,000 as well. At least they have some connection to Wisconsin. According to this article in this Journal Sentinel by Dan Bice, FCC records show that Elizabeth Uline has put in $200,000 worth of airtime between February 24th and March 10th in Milwaukee. Of that sum, $79,000 will be spent on WITI TV Channel 6, a Fox affiliate, and $49,375 on WTMJ Channel 4, an NBC affiliate. Fair Courts is also buying this pack, also buying time in Green Bay and Madison, but those numbers are not yet available. Susan Crawford spokesman Derek Honeyman, great name, by the way, Derek Honeyman says, quote, Musk is trying to buy off Brad Schimmel and take over the Wisconsin Supreme Court so that Schimmel can rubber stamp an extreme agenda of banning abortion and cozying up to corporations. The Schimmel campaign declined comment on the outside spending in the race. I bet they did. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842, if you would like to weigh in on this. We've talked before in this program and a lot on campaign spending, Citizens United. But this is even taking it one step. It shows you how this can get out of control real fast. Because you have people that have virtually no connection, or perhaps in Musk's case, no connection to Wisconsin, and putting in so much money that it drowns out other people's voices. It's one thing to say, look, my voice is bigger than you because I raise more money. If you want to do the same thing, go raise more money. It's another thing, in my opinion, to say I have so much money, I'm the richest person in the world. I mean, think about this. Think if you went down to your local county fair, and you were going to go out to the racetrack. Some county fairs have demolition derbies or still have horse races or the grease pig contest or whatever. And you went to your local track at your county fair, and you stood up on a soapbox, and you screamed at the top of your lungs, and you said, "This is my opinion." And then somebody who disagreed with you came in with 10 jacked up 4x4s with amplifiers and speakers on the back, all playing the same song, and went around that track. Do you think that your voice would be heard? That's essentially what's happening here, only this time it's our Supreme Court who's getting drowned out. Your voice. By the way, whether or not you're going to vote Republican or Democrat or Schimmel or Crawford, your voice is getting drowned out by Elon Musk, a guy who has no business in Wisconsin. And you don't think that Brad Schimmel is going to be in Elon Musk's pocket? Here's what they get out of this, is when big decisions get made, such as we just got the new fairer maps recently. Well, doesn't it behoove Trump and Musk to have that undone? Of course it does. Doesn't it behoove Trump and Musk to take away rights in Wisconsin that we already have? Of course it does. So it's going to affect us in Wisconsin if Musk and Schimmel win. And by the way, if you support law enforcement like I do, don't you want a judge who's going to stand up against insurrectionists? Because Brad Schimmel's on the record saying he won't. Susan Crawford is a law and order candidate. Let's be clear about that. Back with Luke Mathers on the other side. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
We all know that there are a lot of things that can impact the markets day to day, but one of them is coming back.
Thanks, LA
That
Tom.
being
Much appreciated.
Chernobyl.
I am
I'm
feeling
Ben
so
Jarbo
much
with
better.
the Midwest Farm Report, and John Heinberg, a market advisor with Total Farm Marketing out of West Bend, is here to explain how nearly 40 years after the disaster, Chernobyl is still having an impact on the wheat markets.
Yeah, the weather was a big factor. Obviously, this cold temperature is coming through, bringing some premium into that winter wheat market again. But at the same time, too, we just had an issue with the Chernobyl nuclear reactor facility, the one that fell apart or broke up in 1986, and they put a cap dome over top of it. And on Fridays, it was said the Russians did it. Obviously, they're saying the Ukrainians did it, but somebody launched a drone attack that actually cracked that dome in terms of with a missile strike. No radiation or things are coming out, but I think it jumped some more premium into the market, which we haven't seen for a long time here.
As Heinberg was explaining, whether it be weather or nuclear reactors, there are a lot of things that can impact the markets. From the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Ben Jarbo, and we'll take a look at those midday markets right after this.
Just stop and listen to these great details on our next farm tour. Hi, everybody. I'm PM Yankee, inviting you to join me July 26th through August 4th as we head to the Canadian Rockies, Vancouver, Victoria, as well as agricultural highlights. We'll start in Calgary and visit their expansive Living History Museum. Then it's off to Banff for a guided tour and meet a Mountie. Next, we board a Via Rail train for phenomenal views of the Canadian Rockies. Once we arrive in Vancouver, we'll enjoy award-winning wines at Lulu Island Winery and also take a ferry to Vancouver Island for a stroll through Brewcart Gardens.
It looks like he looks angelic, that bright light. Am I dying? All I see is a bright light. I'm heading towards the light. Oh, it's Luke Mathers coming to bring me into his arms.
Or watch a travel show.
He probably didn't hear any of that because he's still getting his headphones plugged in.
For our next tour of the Canadian Rockies.
Welcome back. I'm Ben Jarbo with the Midwest Farm Report, and remember to follow along with us on all
Can you hear me?
things agriculture.
Yep. How's it going?
I said, all I see is a bright light. I'm being drawn towards a light. Suddenly, I'm feeling comforted. What is it? Oh, it's Luke just gathering me into his arms.
Apologize for the bright light. I don't have any blinds for that one behind me.
I'm blind, I can see, said the blind man as he picked up his hammer and saw.
It was just the Kate McKinnon sketch from SNL 50 with the bright light. Oh, that's not how it worked for me. It was a giant rusty steel claw. That's how I got picked up by the...
Luke has seen it now?
I have not caught up. I didn't watch SNL. I was too busy sleeping.
That's fair. I finished the second half last night because I couldn't watch it all live. I was too exhausted.
Zomers, I said, if we have time, I don't know if we'll have time this half hour, but I sent you a clip of this former USAID head on Trump, what's happening in D.C. We may get to it this half hour, may not get to it until next hour. We'll start with the story. I was just doing the BICE story on 670.
I was listening. Yeah.
We'll start there. We got a couple of callers, and we can talk. We can talk about Badgers. We can talk. What do you want to talk about, Luke?
Whatever you'd like to tangent about, Todd.
We can talk. How about the kid? How about the 18-year-old kid who beat out Dame for the 3-point contest and made $100,000?
That was pretty cool.
I think it's important to point out what the parameters were. Dame had to make 3 before he made 1. Dame had 2 made already.
The guy's an NBA player.
Yeah, but that's still a tough shot. But I saw Kyrie Irving take some of the cash out of the thing. So, like, the guy didn't walk... Yeah, it was kind of funny. He walked away with, like, $999,993. I don't know. Because it was, like, all single... It was weird. I saw parts of it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, 25 seconds.
All right, thank you. Media Radio Network. It is 34 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. A renewed, a revigorated, a genetically improved Aaron Zommers on the board today. Glad to have him back after being off a couple of days. And that music on a Tuesday only means that someone else has returned to our airwaves, also looking refreshed, tanned, and genetically improved. Our very own Luke Mathers. It's time for another edition of Tuesday Tangents with Lukester. Luke, welcome back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about genetically improved or tan, but I got some sun. It was very dangerous, Texas and New Mexican sun where I was. So
very intense, right?
It was. So anytime that we were in the beating sun, we had long sleeves and kind of we were taking precautions.
You were down and did a little national park tour, which is fantastic. I wish more people, including myself, would take advantage of our national parks because they are a treasure and institution.
Yeah, anybody that has the opportunity to do so, I highly recommend it. Knocked off 4 more off of our list. We hope to see them all, and just an excellent time to be and place to be able to unwind and kind of disconnect and recharge. So it's a lot of fun.
Good. Glad to have you back. Now you're working from home today. Is that are you taking care of the dogs, their paws? It's very, very cold out. People have to take care of themselves. Or is it just that you, instead of putting on a sweater, for those watching on the stream, you have 2 pups on either side. You're just cuddling with your dogs to keep warm.
No. They're in the other room. Aurora is a young pup, so this is one of her coldest days, probably of her life still.
Oh yeah.
And she does not care. So I have to be very important, like to try to get her back inside after a certain amount of time outside, because she's just laying out in the snow and enjoying it. But it's frigid. Remy, on the other hand, is like he does his business is right back in the house.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit of this more serious news of the day before we have some fun here, Luke. A couple of callers waiting. We'll get to you in just a minute. This story by Dan Bice came out yesterday afternoon in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And I think this is it's certainly disturbing to me, but I think it's helpful. We hear so much about what's going on in D.C. Elon Musk, the richest person in the world, using his wealth to intimidate people. And now here the chickens have come home to roost in this story by Bice. So far, this Elon Musk-backed PAC, Political Action Committee, is spending $670,000 on TV airtime to support Brad Schimmel in the Supreme Court race.
Yeah, and put it in context for folks as well. Like that to Elon Musk is pennies.
Sure,
like,
pizza money.
He's not even going to know. To him, yes.
Right.
Like an exorbitant amount of money for any campaign to be able to spend in a 2-week period, outside interest or campaign itself, regardless. Like it is a lot of money to spend. There's going to be a lot of ads. Wisconsinites that were sick of these political ads all November. It's going to be more of those in the tune of almost 2/3 of $1 million.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
And for somebody to be able to drop that amount of money and it make no difference to them, but be able to influence and sway an election here in the state of Wisconsin, that's something that we got to talk about it more, because the richest man in the world coming in and trying to put his finger on the scale for how we determine who makes up our state Supreme Court is a really big deal. And it's important for Wisconsinites to be aware of where those ads are coming from and who's paying for them.
I agree with you. And I think, we've talked to this show before. We've had callers call in. I certainly wish we did not have the current campaign situation we did in terms of how much money basically unlimited could go into these campaigns. I wish that were different. But set that point aside for a second. You can at least make some, I shouldn't say you, but a general person could say, well, a rich Wisconsinite has some vested interest in the game. And so, hey, they're putting money in. What really disturbs me is that Elon Musk, to my knowledge, has no residence here. He has no business based here. He has no interest here other than his larger political agenda to bring the Trump agenda, the Musk Trump agenda of influence into our state, to your point, Luke. And he doesn't care a whit about any Wisconsinite here. This is all about absolute power and putting an amount of money that's nothing to him, but could mean a whole lot to people in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and it is It is very telling. Over the weekend, had the opportunity on Valentine's Day to go watch the new Captain America movie. And it made me think, kind of, if you had Elon Musk money, not necessarily Captain America, but the equating to a superhero would be Iron Man or Batman. You have these billionaires that go and they're vigilante crime fighters, and they do good as superheroes. Elon Musk is that kind. He's the richest man in the world. He could be going and saving people. There was a online thread a while back where somebody told Elon on Twitter, I think this was before he purchased it or shortly after he purchased Twitter, that he could instead spend that money and be able to end world hunger. And Elon's like, prove it. Send me the numbers. I'll write the check. Prove it. And the person did. They worked for I forget if it was the World Health Organization or what international organization worked to solve hunger problems around the globe. And they presented this plan. Hey, you put this much money, these dollars behind this organization, this entity, and you could end world hunger. And Elon was like, oh, that's cute, but I'm not going to do it. He could be a hero, and instead he's choosing his time to get involved in politics at all levels, including seemingly now here in Wisconsin with our state Supreme Court race, and trying to tip the balance in a way that he believes, ultimately, when the chickens come home to roost, that it's going to be beneficial to him.
Right, and I think if people, tonight we're going to hear from Governor Evers reportedly on a new proposition to address PFAS in our drinking water in Wisconsin, to the new maps that we have now, that the current Supreme Court has put on to make districts more competitive. We have women's health on the ballot in an indirect or a direct way, however you want to look at it. I guess those are the things I think that Wisconsinites should decide and debate amongst ourselves. We should have those debates on both sides of viewpoints, but amongst Wisconsinites. And what really bothers me, to your point, is this dude that has no interest in it. I'm sure he probably hasn't even been here, but anyway. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Let's go quickly to Mark in Prairie du Sac. Mark, thanks for holding on, my friend. What say you?
Yeah, I just for Judge Schimmel there, I can't imagine the screaming that would be going on among the Republicans if George Soros is offering the same amount of money,
right?
To back Judge Crawford. I have this image in my head of, there was a Simpsons episode where they were kind of back in Dixonian times, where Principal Skinner was offering a Bart or some other of his little school chums for sale, boy for sale, boy for sale. I can just imagine Musk standing there, holding Schimmel in his grubby little judge's robes, because he's stained them from his corruption, and saying, judge for sale, because that's kind of that's the image that just, these guys are just corrupt to the core. It is just sad, and Brad Schimmel, cutting deals for his buddy, Scott, as I said before, Scott Jensen, and reducing 3 felonies to a misdemeanor when they got a change of venue for him, and now the guy can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as a lobbyist, and Schimmel's probably taking money from the firms that Jensen has lobbied for, and from Jensen himself.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the call. 855-752-4842. Let's go to Wisco Paul. Wisco, thanks for holding on. What say you?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Todd. I, for one, don't want to go back to the Walker agenda. It's nice having fair maps. It proves democracy is working in this state. And I think Eli, with all his money, he just wants to scare the Republican Party more than they already are, and put his finger on flipping the Supreme Court race here. You could correct me if I'm wrong about that. Citizens United is just an awful thing, and I just can't go back to the Walker agenda. It's just too much. Anyway, Eli wants the power, I guess. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, Wisco. Appreciate it. Luke, I want to get to this cut for a second, but first of all, quick take on Wisco's point there. I think he brings up a good one. I mean, I know a little something about this Schimmel guy. I don't want to tell the story again, but I had to face the guy in a federal court in a direct way, actually. He did Scott Walker's bidding, Schimmel did when he was Attorney General, on suppression of voter suppression in Wisconsin. Now, Scott Walker is not, I mean, he has about as much intimidation, as Elon Musk does in his hangnail on his big toe. I mean, Walker doesn't have the power that Musk does through finances. And so if Schimmel's going to kowtow to Walker, thinks what he's going to do if he owes his election to Musk.
Yeah, and we've seen just this on display though, where there's kind of it's how Brad Schimmel originally got appointed to be a judge. It's kind of a insider baseball that if you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. And so for a politician who was the former attorney general to then be appointed by the outgoing governor to be a judge, and is now running and seemingly doing a little wink, wink, nod, nod aspect of, oh yeah, that outside money, I think it's the spigot's going to turn on soon. And then we see reporting that all of a sudden the spigots are on for outside spending in favor of Brad Schimmel or against Judge Susan Crawford. It's pretty obvious, but unfortunately we got to talk about it because for the sake of the way that we elect our highest court, it needs to be talked about more out in the open.
Wisco brought up this point of fear. And I want to play, if you didn't see it, go back and check out 60 Minutes from this weekend and other things going on. But Scott Pelley sat down and did a great piece on what's happening in Washington. And one of the people that he interviewed was a guy who was a Republican, a former administrator of USAID. And I know this is focusing on USAID, but there's a point here that Wisco brought up about fear and what Musk and Trump are doing in Washington. Here's this Pelley report from 60 Minutes on Sunday.
I think we're creating a system that violates the separation of powers and the checks and balances that are intended in the Constitution.
Republican Andrew Natsios, former head of USAID, spoke to us in Washington in part because he is not hearing public appeals to reason from fellow Republicans.
I am not a moderate Republican. I am a conservative Republican and a strict constructionist. The reason they're not saying anything, I think they're afraid. Musk has said that he would spend $100 million in primaries on anybody who opposed the president on anything. So I think there's a lot of fear in the city right now.
How do you view this moment in history?
I don't want to be too pessimistic, but it does appear we may be headed towards some sort of a constitutional crisis. I hope that doesn't happen. I pray it doesn't happen, but it's certainly concerning to me what's going on in the city right now.
Is the constitutional order breaking down?
We'll see if they refuse to enforce a court order by the Supreme Court. If it gets to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules against the administration on something and they refuse to enforce it, then we will have a constitutional crisis.
What happens then?
Well, I don't know.
No one knows.
No one knows.
Andrew Natsios, a Republican former administrator of USAID, on 60 Minutes this weekend. Luke Mathers, again, going back. This is somebody who knows Washington, D.C., and saying that Musk is threatening city members of Congress with $100 million in primary money if they don't do what he and Trump want.
Yeah, and I think we're already seeing that this isn't just a hollow threat. I think the first go around of the Trump administration, there was a lot said, and you had to kind of parse through all of the different rhetoric. But now we're seeing that Elon Musk is willing here in the state of Wisconsin to put the private money into these races. And it's very telling that Wisconsin, with this first April 1st election, could be the test case to folks around the country, not just here in the state of Wisconsin, but around the country, that Elon Musk is not kidding. He's willing to do it.
That's a great point, Luke. That is absolutely spot on. You're right. This is the, I'm not messing around here. I mean business. And if you want to see it, look at Wisconsin. I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think this is a time for Wisconsinites to say, we're going to reclaim our voice in our own state and not let this happen.
Yeah, and it's very pertinent to be everybody that can go be a voter and make your voice heard. We've got the spring primary today, but April 1st, Tuesday, April 1st, is our general election here, and it's more important now than ever to vote.
We'll be back after this. Don't go anywhere. Luke Mathers and I talked a little fun. Well, that was fun too, but more fun on the other side of the Civic Media Radio Network. Sorry, that was kind of awkward. I clearly need more coffee. It was too cold to go get my refill of coffee this morning.
It's all good.
Are all the
It's all
headphones
good.
besides yours turned down?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay.
Pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, and other joints. With
Well,
no surgery,
we'll
no
promo
drugs,
the
and no downtime. To find
the
out
election
if you're a
again, the
viable
election
candidate,
coverage, and
you
we'll
may
do
request a free
Badgers. Is that all right?
consultation from QC
Yeah.
Kinetics
All right.
by calling
Jared,
Wait,
Brian,
what was the first part before
I'm
Badgers?
sorry.
I was reading something.
Just a quick promo for our election coverage.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
our state our budget address and election coverage.
Sounds good. And yeah, I'll be in the studio for that, so that's why I'm kind of
cool.
parsing my day as
Right.
a little bit
Makes
here,
sense.
a little bit there, a little bit.
That's fine.
It's a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and a little bit in the evening, rather than 16, 17 hours straight.
It's always good.
LA Tom says, if you're so scared of Musk, and he did correct himself that it is supposed to say Musk. If you're so scared of Musk, then maybe you should retire or maybe drop out of Congress.
Right?
But that doesn't prevent Musk from doing what he wants to do and then finding a loyalist to either fill it in special election or whatever other way.
Yeah.
Boy for sale! Boy for sale!
Is this legal, man?
Only here and in Mississippi.
I had it ready as soon as Mark from the SAC mentioned it, but I was like,
No,
I'll play it during the break.
I think you did it. I think you did it the right way.
Yeah, I think so. All right, about 15 seconds.
All right, thank you.
She was blinded by the lights, wrapped up like a deuce under the runner in the night. Blinded by the lights, wrapped up like a deuce under the runner in the night. Blinded by the lights, wrapped up like a deuce.
I'm looking into my camera, my monitor, because Luke is joining us from home, and I see a bright light. I'm talking. I hear Luke's voice. I'm being drawn in. I feel lightheaded. I feel like I'm making a transition. I'm being taken into the warm, open arms of Luke. No, he has his window open. It's the light behind you, Luke. You look angelic.
Thank you. I don't have any blinds for this one, so it does complicate the setup from home sometimes. But if you're in the sun, it's nice and warm. If it weren't for that wind, it would be a gorgeous February day here in Wisconsin.
Right? Yeah, it's beautiful. It's sunny, but yeah, very cold. Bundle up out there. Many school districts in northern and western Wisconsin shut down today. Just simply too dangerous to have kids waiting outside the buses. And it looks like that cold weather will continue into tomorrow morning before maybe some 40s. Our meteorology team is saying by the weekend. Luke, you're always busy keeping your hands in the mix of all things civic media. A couple of big things happening tonight. Coverage begins tonight with the budget address. Tell folks about that.
Yeah, we're going to have coverage of both the budget address as well as, if you haven't already made a plan to be a voter, polls close by 8 p.m., so you can go between now and 8. We're going to also bring live coverage of those election results along with coverage of the biennial state budget address. Not only is it going to be anchored by Mr. Todd Allbaugh himself, but we're going to have contributions from Civic Media's political editor and founder of the Recombobulation Area, Dan Schaefer, on the scene at the Capitol. Jimmy Koska, Civic Media News Bureau Chief, is going to be contributing for some of the election coverage as well. And we're going to have a tremendous slate of insight from current and former state legislators. So you're going to want to tune in. That coverage beginning at just before 7 o'clock this evening.
Sounds good. We'll stay on a little bit after that and then be bringing election night coverage. Wisconsin decides 2025 in this DPI race. As Luke likes to say, be a voter. I was number 134 in my ward today. Luke, did you vote beforehand or did you vote in today?
I'm going to head to the polls shortly here when my wife gets home from work. We're going to go together. We like to vote together and make sure that we're both able to cast our civic duty. So
they say the family that votes together stays together. So I don't know. I think that's what they say. I'm not so sure. 855-752-4842. Let's go quickly to the phone lines. Craig, listening via the app, I assume, in beautiful Chicago, the Windy City. Craig, thanks for calling in. What say you?
I'm a little bit, and I'm sorry about my voice. I'm a little sick, but I'm a little bit disappointed by everybody being so alarmed at how much money someone's going to spend. I can just tell you for me, when I look at a candidate or candidates, I look at experience, track record, and I won't consider somebody for state or federal office if they've never been in a lower level position to look at their accomplishments. I don't care how much money they spend.
Well,
I would only hope.
Go ahead, Craig.
That money thing is not overplayed by a voter being a little bit more involved in picking a candidate rather than responding to an ad.
I couldn't agree more. I really appreciate the call, Craig, and thanks for your listenership. I hope your voice feels better there. Luke, I agree. It sounds like Craig is a very informed voter. My issue, and you can speak for yourself, my issue is when so much exorbitant amounts of money, like Elon Musk putting in $750,000 in 2 weeks into Wisconsin, what it does is it muddies the water, to say the least, and it gives false impressions to voters that might not take the time or is just sick of elections and doesn't, but they see this terrible ad against one candidate and just say, well, I guess I'm voting for the other person.
If political ads didn't work, you would not see a multi-billion-dollar industry built around like these campaign ads every single election cycle. And so for some voters, yes, the ads that they see throughout the cycle aren't going to make a difference to them. But the elections are decided on the margins, especially here in the state of Wisconsin, and these political ads make a difference on those margins. And so I think it is very important to know. That's why we need to have transparency. It shouldn't just be some fluffy, special-sounding group that can put their name on these ads and then attack candidates or promote other candidates. It should be clear, and thankfully we can still see through FCC reporting that who is behind this, but there's going to be a lot of instances where there's filing deadlines leading up to right before the election where there's going to be an onslaught of money spent, and you don't get to find out until after the election who paid for that, and that's not right for a democracy.
Not much time left, but also on a couple of our civic media stations tonight will not carry our special election campaign government coverage. They'll have Wisconsin men's basketball. The Fighting Illini will be at the Kohl Center tonight. Pregame show starts at 6:30, and then the tip-off, I believe, around 7:30 tonight in Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, Racine, Kenosha, and Richland Center. Those stations will carry that game. You can also listen to it on the Civic Media app. Big game, Luke, for your alma mater.
Yeah, the Badgers looking really good. Mid-season form is special. I think it's important basketball here in the month of February, and this game could have some implications for what's going to come for the Badgers in March. So definitely a big game. You want to stay tuned to the budget coverage as well with the budget address and our election results. Right, yeah. It's just if you've got a smart speaker and a smartphone, have the Badger game going on in one, and then the election special coverage this evening on the other.
Yeah, it should be good. Not a lot of time, but the Bucks All-Star break, Dame got beat out by an 18-year-old kid in the three-point shooting. The kid won $100,000 because he beat out Dame.
If I was Dame, If I was Dame, and it seemed like he was kind of playing around with him, but all the good. Dame doesn't need the money. Give it. No, if the kid can make the shot, let the kid make the shot and be a winner.
I think what bothered me is after the kid made the shot, Dame just walked away. He didn't go shake his hand or like say congratulations. He acted like he was ticked off about it.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's all in good fun, I think. That's what All-Star Weekend's for.
Can the Bucks get this together, Luke?
I think so. I think they're going to be able to take care of some business.
All right, come on back. Thank you very much, Luke. We appreciate you. What's worse is next on the Civic Media Radio Network involving coffee.
Way to ask me a tough question. What else am I supposed to say other than yes right there?
No, I like
Kyle
it.
Kuzma looked good in the win against Minnesota, but I didn't have enough time to say that.
You seemed a little weak. I thought it would be absolutely. You know what you're talking about. Well, yeah, sure, yes.
My bad. I'll correct that next week. I'll correct it next week.
It worries me because if you don't believe the Bucks are going to do better, then they are going to do better. Because I don't know Bucks basketball like you do.
I think that they can compete with New York, Boston, and Cleveland right now, which are the three teams ahead of them. But it's still too soon to tell how this Kyle Kuzma trade is going to affect the whole roster.
For me, my biggest concern is if everyone's too depressed because Chris Middleton's gone.
I don't think everybody's too depressed that Chris is gone. I think at the end of the day, I think they want to win. Yes, they're all. And Chris said this isn't goodbye, it's thank you. So that sentiment alone, Chris probably only has a season or two left in his tank, and so it's.
Thank you, Tony.
There you go, Tony. Tony knows. But I think Chris has only got a season or two left in his tank.
Right.
And ultimately, when he retires, his family, his kids, they're all here in Milwaukee and Wisconsin. I think they're going to be Milwaukeeans for good.
Trying to help an old man remember next Tuesday. We should bring that because I thought that was one of the classiest, best written thank you goodbyes I've ever seen from anybody at any sport ever. I just thought it was a 10 out of 10.
Yep, no notes. It was just excellent. Yeah. So enjoy the second hour. I will talk to you gentlemen
we'll talk to you later, Lukester. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Canada say 19 have been released from the hospital after a Delta jet flipped yesterday during landing at Toronto Pearson Airport. No one died. At least 25 states under snow and ice alerts today with bitter cold stretching from the south to New England. And the death toll from severe storms this week has risen to 15. Most of those fatalities are in Kentucky. This is ABC News.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Have you voted yet? Polls are open for today's spring primary. Today, there's one statewide race for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Jill Underly is facing two challengers, Sauk Prairie Superintendent Jeff Wright and Milwaukee Charter School advocate Brittany Kinzer. On the ballot here in Madison are primaries for 3 Common Council districts. There are also primaries for City Council in Fitchburg and Sun Prairie. All of these races have 3 candidates. The top 2 winners today will move on to the April 1st election. Of course, we'll have results for you tomorrow. And 2024 set records for school referendums in Wisconsin. There are dozens more on tap for the spring now, and a few of them are happening today. With more, here's Civic Media's Jimmy Kuska.
Today, voters in 5 school districts in Wisconsin will decide whether their public school can exceed local tax levies to pay for teachers, courses, security updates, and building upgrades. Kenosha, Waterford Union, Northland Pines, Tomahawk, and Mauston school district voters will see ballot measures for the spring primary. Of those 5, Kenosha's comes with the largest price tag at $115 million. Meanwhile, Mauston school district officials said that if their referendum fails, they could dissolve as a district 2 years from now. For Civic Media News, I'm Jimmy Kuska.
Meanwhile, tonight Governor Tony Evers will deliver his budget address to the legislature. It's the kickoff to a negotiation process between him and Republicans in the Senate and Assembly. His plan includes increasing funding for schools, reforms to Wisconsin's correctional system, and funding the new Office of Violence Prevention. Today, he announced his plan includes $2 billion in tax savings for Wisconsinites. It would lower the cost of childcare and prescription drugs and would eliminate taxes on tips. After the State of the State, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos called Evers' priorities, quote, a whole lot of things that are not going to happen in Wisconsin. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. We'll have special coverage of the governor's address right here on 92.7 WMDX Radio.
It's the Badgers and Illinois. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Tonight at the Kohl Center, it's Wisconsin against the Fighting Illini. Now, the last time these two teams met, Illinois won 86-80. The Badgers now ranked 11th in the nation. Head basketball coach Greg Gard on tonight's game.
Yeah, I think we're better on both ends of the floor, but obviously a really good team, a lot of talent. You know, when they're playing well, they're really, really good. So it's going to be a challenge for us and a good measuring stick to see where we have come from early December.
Number 16th ranked Marquette at home tonight in Milwaukee against Seton Hall. Baseball in Arizona. Brewers manager Pat Murphy asked about 22-year-old Jefferson Cairo coming back from surgery, and Murph is excited about the young catcher's future.
He's the right kid. He's got the
Oh, I'm
right
sorry I didn't have your microphone on at first. I grabbed the one that it normally is.
I just thought maybe you wanted me to make sure that I got like a certain part of the song.
No, I did the muscle memory, and then I looked, and I'm like, wait, we're using a different
Pat
microphone.
Murphy with Sports on Mike Clemens.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
Feeling very frigid today with high temperatures only climbing to the single digits. And with breezy winds that keep us feeling low sub-zero. And tonight, another cold weather advisory goes into effect, where we'll be dipping to feeling like 25 below. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 4.
The John and Gordy Show.
Go back to an earlier era before the right dominated the national storytelling. You go back to somebody like Frank Capra. He was masterful at telling that story about the little guy, that heroic figure who had nothing but worked hard, looked out for other people, cared about family, and made a better life. And that kind of storytelling has vanished.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX. The Maggie Dawn Show.
Marquette University professor and pollster extraordinaire Charles Franklin.
Deporting immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally. 60% support that, but when we ask the same question and just add at the end, including those with jobs and no criminal record, then support drops to just 43%.
Wisconsinites.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers, our producer and engineer. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big broadcast. Glad to have you along on a Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. It's a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Sunny skies here at the world headquarters of Civic Media in downtown Madison. Chilly, though. Dangerously cold in some parts of the state. Much of northern Wisconsin, northwestern Wisconsin, part of western Wisconsin canceled classes for school today out of concern over students, those particularly that have to walk to school or walk and then stand at a bus stop for, some kids get up early, might have to stand outside for 20 minutes, a half an hour before they get picked up by the bus. And officials just said, look, that's too dangerous when temperatures are negative 25, negative 30. And so they shut down classes in parts of Wisconsin today. That cold weather is going to continue on through tonight into tomorrow morning. So listen to your local Civic Media News station and elsewhere locally for possible school delays or closures. Parts of the state also delayed classes today for 2 hours. But it looks like one more day, at least, of this kind of cold snap. And then forecasters are saying by Saturday, Sunday, parts of the state could be near 40 degrees. So how about that for a quick turner? Maybe the groundhog was right. Jimmy the groundhog here in Wisconsin said an early spring. So we'll see. We hope not too early. Mark your calendars On Thursday and Friday of this week, we are going to be doing the show live from downtown in beautiful Hayward, Wisconsin, home of WBZH, the Buzz of the North. Up in Hayward, we are returning for the 51st annual American Birkebeiner, the Berkey. And this year, unlike last year, it is cold and there is snow, and the final leg/finish line of the Birkebeiner will be in downtown Hayward on Main Street. Our station is literally not even a half a block from that route. So we're going to be set up where Zommers, we're going to try. I've taken out the old Baxter State parka out of the closet, and I'm going to be all duded up in my warmest gear, and we are going to attempt to broadcast live the entire show outside at the American Birkebeiner on Friday.
That should be amazing.
It'll be something, all right. I'll give you that.
We'll just need some coffee to stay warm.
Thank you. Oh, great segue. We're going to talk about a little coffee in a second. Yeah, but so Thursday outside, because a lot of things are happening outside downtown on Thursday. See, it's not just one race. We learned this last year, of course, at the Birkebeiner. There are events all week long. And so one of the races, or a couple of the races, the shorter ones, are going to be held on Thursday. And so there'll be all kinds of activity, or so we hope, on Thursday. And then Friday, nothing in particular downtown. And so we're going to be doing the show from inside our studios in Hayward. And then Saturday is the great big, Saturday and Sunday are the great huge events. And what's cool about it is we have people from all over the world. We learned last year, I think there were 3 states, like Louisiana, Mississippi, and one other one that fails to jog my memory. Those are the only states that do not send participants to the Birkebeiner. And then you have all kinds of Scandinavian countries and Canada and Germany. So a good time will be had by all. So we're looking forward to being up there at the Birkebeiner and talking to a few people in Hayward around the local area and bringing that coverage. So join us live from Hayward as the show goes back on the road in 2025 from the American Birkebeiner this Thursday and Friday. Many thanks to Darla, our great general manager up there in Hayward and across the north, for helping us set all of that up, and very much looking forward to it again. I'm sleeping on the futon again, which
seems
is fine.
to go well last year.
And this is great. It's one of the few. Green Bay also has showers in the station. So if I ever get caught somewhere, I need a quick accommodation. Hayward has a futon. It's got hot water. It's got a shower. There's a little kitchenette. I'm set. I'm self-contained.
Not a lot more you need for a couple of days on the road.
No, it's really looking forward to it. So many thanks for that opportunity, and I hope you'll come along with us on Thursday and Friday. More news in this hour. Talk a little bit more about the governor's budget address. What is that? What you can expect tonight? What does it mean in this hour? But right now, at 11 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock, time once again for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get
Time
with
once
this, or you
again
can get with that.
for What's Worse. No prize money involved, nothing in particular to give away, but it is your chance to have your voice heard across the entire state of Wisconsin. All 11 news, talk, sports stations in the Civic Media Network in every major media market in the state. No better way to get your message, your product out and engaged with community than right here on Civic Media. Check it out, civicmedia.us, in how you can advertise with this great network. All right, Zommers, could not be more timely today. Could not be more timely. What's worse, on a bitterly cold day across Wisconsin, people just trying to warm up, whether it's Luke Mathers at home with his dogs. Think about that. You have a dog on each side, you're going to be a warm puppy.
Sure
are. People drinking hot chocolate, might be adult beverages. And of course, that's always dangerous because it makes you feel like you're warmer, but it actually makes you colder.
Well, unless you're drinking, like a hot toddy, something that's actually hot.
Hello. All right, here we go. But so a lot of people like coffee on a day like today. And nobody likes coffee better than me. I have been privileged to have a lot of experience in coffee. I've owned a couple of coffee shops over my life. been to origin, as they say, which means where coffee is grown in Central America a number of times. So here now, today's What's Worse? Coffee black or coffee with cream? Coffee black or coffee with cream? What's worse? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. Simply go to your Apple or Android device. Go to your app store. You'll see the little search bar there in the app store. Type in Civic, CIVIC Media. It'll pop up a little CM logo. Click on that. Takes less than a minute. It is free, gratis, cero, no dinero, not a dime. It's what Gail King at CBS calls a deal. The Civic Media app. Get it now. You can listen to our special election night coverage, governor's budget address, and that big Badger basketball game, all on Civic Media's app tonight for free. So get it right now. What's worse, coffee black or coffee with cream? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Steve, listening on WAUK in Milwaukee, right out of the gate, black. Steve says black coffee is worse than coffee with cream. You know I have feelings about this, Summers.
I do, and I know that we're in agreement on this, that when you have nice coffee, you want to appreciate the flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got a text, Brian from Milwaukee, speaking of flavors, says, black is dry and nasty, puke emoji, puke emoji. I need some flavor, French vanilla or caramel. I understand that if you're drinking Folgers, I agree, Folgers is nasty. But, well, nasty might be a bit strong, but if you just...
nasty.
It's nasty. I'm not going to lie, it's nasty. But if you have good coffee, you want to taste what's there and appreciate the complexity of it and everything. And if you put cream in it, it just dilutes all that.
Also, yes, we're going to talk about this in a second. Listener from Wanakee, good Lord, Todd. I see AUK and I start thinking of Wanakee in my head. Waukesha, WAUK, says neither. Both are delicious. All right. What's worse? Coffee black or coffee with cream? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842, or text us on the Civic Media app. Greg, listening in Genesee Depot on AUK, says black coffee is worse.
I was afraid this would happen.
Watching on the YouTube, you can join us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can see Zommers and I live and in color and in person, our guests as well. And you can be part of our, what we call the secret show. Because when you hear commercials over the app or over the air, we leave our mics and cameras on and we have a lot of fun off the air. So you can see what we say off the air. Anyway, L.A. Tom, listening out there, staying very warm, by the way, God love him, in Los Angeles, says, I do not know. What? Wait, time out. He says, I do not know because I have never drunk coffee. Never, L.A.? He's never had coffee.
Wow. I mean, I get not having it a lot. Like, I tried coffee. I mean, I tried a little sip when I was little, and it's like, bleh, that's nasty because you're a little kid and you don't understand. But then as I got older, I still tried it late, and I didn't have it often for a while, but never. He also says he hasn't had a soda in 12 years. That's definitely good.
Good for you, L.A. I wish I could say the same.
I mostly
when
just
I
have it
when
out
I
of
got in the
convenience.
best shape of my life about 11 years ago, I went probably 6 months plus without, and then I had maybe one or two. I went almost like over a year and barely drank soda and felt much, much better. I can't say that now. Philip, listening in beautiful Beaver Dam. I once went to Beaver Dam. That's a great poem. Anyway, Philip from Beaver Dam, listening on WMDX, says black is the only coffee. God love you, Philip. Absolutely. Peggy in Brooklyn, calling in on the old lines, 855-752-4842. Peggy, what's worse, coffee black or coffee with cream?
I totally agree with you. If it's good black coffee, you don't need cream. If it's shitty black coffee, you need cream, and usually you're on the road. And you're like,
Bingo. Bingo. Peggy for the win.
Yes.
Peggy for the win. Nice. Peggy, you nailed it. There's little I can do to improve that call. Because you're right. Now without naming somebody, when you're on the road, it's usually like a convenience store, right?
Oh, we don't.
Oh, no, she's gone. All right. But Peggy's absolutely right about this. I'm going to expound on it when we come back. Also, more of your phone calls. Coffee black or coffee with cream? What's worse? 855-752-4842. Back after this on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Sun Prairie
Oh,
yet.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I know. I love the pizza.
is
She did say it right.
I was going to say, I'm not mad about that because that is the best use of that word I've ever heard on this show.
I agree. I agree.
Because that's the perfect way to use that word. If you do have crappy black coffee, you have to do something.
The
Yes.
words right out of my. Yeah. SugarRiverPizza.com.
Yeah, if you do try coffee, we got to go through
All right.
the way to taste it.
LA, stay tuned. We're gonna we will walk you through this. And in fact, I have a couple of suggestions for you out in LA.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I want to have some. I mean, I guess I have recently because I went to Wonder State. I want to go there again after the show today and get some coffee. This is just making me crave the.
Well, I'll just tell you now, LA, because you're watching on the stream. There's a place called Go Get 'em Tiger. Go Get 'em Tiger. I believe it's still there in Los Angeles. It's a great coffee. Blue Bottle is based in LA. They've got I don't want to say too commercial, but they still have some really, really great coffees. So I would say go to Blue Bottle, Go Get 'em Tiger. What's the place there's a place in downtown Pasadena I've been to. I could walk you right to it. If you're going down Orange Boulevard? Because when you make the turn there. Anyway, it's on the left-hand side if you're going east, I think. Let's see if I
About
can
20
find
seconds.
it. All right.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. The incomparable Julie Andrews in what a great program and what a great movie that is, Sound of Music, and probably more pertinent today than ever before.
Unfortunately,
as it turns out. A few of our favorite things. Welcome back, Zommers on the board. Allbaugh behind the mic. 22 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Right in the middle of today's What's Worse, Coffee Black or Coffee with Cream? What's worse, coffee black or coffee with cream? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842 to weigh in on this topic today. Listener on WMDX says, it depends on the coffee. You're right. Convenience store coffee sucks. Pretty much. I mean,
for the most part.
Some are, I will say, many of the quick trips now in Wisconsin have put in this new machine where you can go and it grinds it right before it makes it. So it's not just sitting there in a big pot. That's slightly better.
It is, for sure.
So I do that if I'm on the road, like Peggy said earlier. Allie in Madison, listening on WMDX, says black coffee is worse because as a kid, my grandma gave me a little coffee with lots of cream. Half and half, baby. Well, I guess if you got addicted to that flavor as a kid, right? Anything else above that, Summers, that we haven't gotten to on the text line there? Let's see. A DJ in Wausau, listening on our great station up there, WXCO, says coffee black is worse. Oh, now here as a guy is a Texan. Says down in Texas, the ranch hands and cowboys only drink coffee black. So I indulge to fit it into the culture. I can't understand it, so I have to take it like the wolf in Pulp Fiction. Lots of cream, lots of sugar. All right, we'll get back to this in a second. What else do we have here? Liz in Saukville says definitely black is my favorite, but it's icky coffee than with cream. All right. Steve in Milwaukee says keep your fancy, expensive Starbucks, but agree if it's really premium stuff, black is good. I love Colombian coffee. All right. Steve in Milwaukee also says McDonald's coffee has to have cream. Yes, if you have to drink it, that's probably the best way to do it. Anything else, Zommers, above that? Or are we pretty much caught up there on the old... I think that's pretty much caught up. All right, let's go to Fred, listening in Cottage Grove on WMDX. Fred, thanks for listening. What's worse, coffee black or coffee with cream?
I personally like black coffee. My son's his wife, so he ships it to us. But if they're going to have cream, it's got to be with Bailey's.
That a boy, right? Have a little fun with it. I like that. Thank you, Fred. Thanks for your listenership. All right, so here's the deal. I'm quick educate. I could literally do a half an hour on this.
More than that, probably.
Probably. So yes, I started drinking coffee when I got into radio in high school. I mean, I kind of sipped parents or grandparents, but I wanted the caffeine, and I didn't want to drink Mountain Dew at 5 a.m. when I signed on the radio. And so I started drinking coffee in high school. I forced myself for the caffeine. And then years and years later, after I was in college and was in one of my trips to El Salvador, I went to a coffee farm and I had black coffee. And it was absolutely stunning. And then I went to a local coffee shop in El Salvador where they roasted it right there and ordered a latte. I've said this on this show before. It was like a food orgasm in that it just blew my mind away. And it tasted like it had sugar in it, but all it was espresso and milk. Peggy is right in Brooklyn. If you buy, because here's what happens. Most coffee like your Folgers and all that stuff, that you get and put in a percolator or in your Mr. Coffee, that is low grade coffee. It is grown at low altitudes and it's cheap. And just like a wine or a cheap beer has bad flavors in it, cheap coffee also does. And so what most roasters do to cover that up, imagine you have a cheese pizza. And you leave it under the broiler too long, and it's all black when you take it out. And you taste the cheese? No, you taste it was charred, right? It tastes like charcoal of a pizza like that. Same thing with coffee. So anytime you see coffee that has like that really glossy, dark black sheen to it, and they have a fancy name on it, that is burnt coffee because the natural oils in the coffee are being forced out of it. And so when you drink that or it's ground up, you say, oh, that's crap. I won't use Peggy's word, but she's right. And so you say, yeah, I got to put sugar and cream to cover up the burnt flavor. I'll drop this knowledge on you. Coffee, like wine, has 161 natural flavors to it. From strawberry to grape to raspberry to brown sugar. And if you buy a high quality coffee, if you get a whole bean, you want like a matte finish, a brown matte finish, not black and glossy. And then you grind that up properly. And here's another tip. Don't use tap water. Coffee is 98% water. Use either through a filter, like I have a water thing, or bottled water. You want not tap water. Really good coffee, and then brew it properly. And if you do that, you'll actually develop a palate and you'll actually be able to taste real tastes in black coffee. The problem is most of the public doesn't know what I just told you, and we've been indoctrinated into buying bad coffee.
Because it's cheap.
So yes, I buy a 12-ounce bag my favorite coffee that I've talked about on this show before. And it's $13 for 12 ounces. That ain't cheap. But again, I'm not buying 24 packs of Miller Lite every Friday night. You know, it's what you can afford and what you want to spend your extra money on. So, and LA Tom, you've got so one of the, if you happen to be in Los Angeles, in downtown Pasadena, try Ideology Coffee, IDEOLOGY Coffee. I've been there before in downtown Pasadena. They do a great job. Ideology Coffee. Also up there is Blue Bottle Coffee. They do a great job as well. And also a place called Go Get 'em Tiger, which was started by a former U.S. barista champion. If you're here in Wisconsin, try to buy coffee that's sourced locally. And, we don't grow it here other than Hawaii, and even that coffee is kind of so-so. So it's not even close to me. Good coffee, black, is better. Zommers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Completely agree.
That was a short one. All right, there's your Let's Run Coffee, and there's what's worse. Back with more after this on Civic Media. There you go.
When I worked at Starbucks, a few times every once in a while, they would bring in like really nice, their premium coffee or whatever, and makes really small batches and have go through with everybody, like, cup your nose over and have your mouth open and smell it so that you can really taste it right away. And, you take little sips and let it touch all the areas of your tongue and really think about what are you all tasting here?
Right. No, it's that. That's the other part. Coffee is a lot of it is smell. Like smell is important for all of our food.
Numbness, swelling, blisters, and skin discoloration. It's most common on your fingers, toes, nose, and ears. Frostbite can lead to permanent, irreversible damage. So limit your time outdoors. Wear a face mask, scarf, gloves, and hat. And if you believe that you do have frostbite, get inside quickly. Warm up slowly. And never rub the area, as that can damage the tissue even further.
And you may see planes overhead this week and next from the Department of Defense. Many Madisonians are familiar with the F-35 jets. That's not what we're talking about here. The National Guard will be conducting test flights at about 7 o'clock each evening, but some of their exercises could last until 2 a.m. They have designated flight paths, and the National Guard says that should cut down on some noise for residents. These flights will run through next Friday, the 28th. And huge news for Dane County snowmobile enthusiasts. Some of our trails are open. The county's northwest and north central trails opened yesterday, and southwestern region trails just opened this morning. Snowmobilers are rejoicing. Last year, they only had about 1 week in January to enjoy the trails. They're hoping for longer this time around, even with a late start. And great news for Wisconsin veterans. The Valentines for Veterans program got more than 28,000 cards and letters this year. They came from all over the country and were distributed at veterans' homes and program centers. Many of them had Valentine's Day parties to celebrate the holiday.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with like a good espresso. Like I'll
I'm
go to
Savannah
Bradbury
Tomei
and
Olson.
order.
You're listening to
my favorite
92.7
probably is the
WMDX News.
Because it's the right.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The British Oscars, also known as the BAFTAs, which stands for British Academy of TV and Film Awards, aired Sunday night, and the show's award winners will only keep people guessing who will take home Oscars as we get closer to the Academy Awards. Conclave took home Best Picture, which surprised critics as it hadn't really won much on other award shows. Variety reports that Conclave beat out The Brutalist and Anora, which had recently been gaining momentum after winning the Critics' Choice Awards, Directors Guild, and Producers Guild Awards. Members of the Hollywood press say this will give Conclave momentum heading up to the Oscars on March 2nd, as there is quite a bit of crossover between BAFTA and Oscar voters. Taking home the Best Actor at the BAFTAs was Adrian Brody for his performance in The Brutalist. Mikey Madison won Best Actress for Anora, and in the Best Supporting categories, it was Zoe Saldana winning for her performance in Amelia Perez, and Kieran Culkin surprising people by winning for his performance in A Real Pain. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Feeling very frigid today with high temperatures only climbing to the single digits. And with breezy winds, it'll keep us feeling well sub-zero. And tonight, another cold weather advisory goes into effect, where we'll be dipping to feeling like 25 below. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 4.
Governor Tony Evers is set to share his budget address to the state on Tuesday, February 18th at 7 p.m. You can count on the Civic Media team to have it covered for you here live.
And when the polls close, you'll also hear your primary election results from the races important to you and your family.
Live coverage of the elections in your area and the budget address Tuesday, February 18th at 7 p.m. on your local Civic Media radio station and the Civic Media app.
There was a time when barbecue was perfect. A strong, reliable flavor that could be counted on. But then big manufacturers decided that barbecue needed to be zesty or spicy or sweeter or whatever. If you miss the good old days of great tasting barbecue, we'd like to introduce you to Grandpa's Barbecue. Made in small batches from Grandpa's original recipe. Buy yours online today at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
Rational Revolution with Mark Becker.
Joining the revolution this week, we've got WISDEM's chairman, Ben Wickler. Be sure to tune in.
Rational Revolution with Mark Becker, Saturdays at 2, Sundays at 1 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Pursuing the truth, having a lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm laughing because during the commercial there, I was trying to catch up on a couple of emails. I was looking at something that our good friend Dan Schaefer, our political editor here at Civic Media and the founder of the Recombobulation Area, sent me. We have our election night, our primary election night coverage tonight, as well as the governor's budget address. So I got in the middle of that, and all of a sudden I hear the theme music, and Zomers is waving at me like, "You idiot, we're going on the air."
I mean,
I'm sorry.
I was
that.
also reading stuff and like, wait a minute, we're doing a live radio show.
We're both like, wait a minute, we gotta do a show here. So welcome back to the show. Speaking of, glad to have you along with us. Remember, it is primary election day. Yes, there is an election day. It's harmless, it's painless. It won't take you long. I got in and out of my polling place this morning. I'm wearing my little, I didn't get an iVoter sticker today. Mine says today every vote matters when I voted today. So I was voter number 134 in my ward. So anyway, take that for what it's worth. I know our own Mike Clemens, our great sports reporter, put that he voted this morning as well. And at his polling place, very, very down from previous spring elections. So low voter turnout. A lot of people might not know about it or might not think it's important, the cold weather. But I always think about this. And I don't want to say, I'm trying to think, I'm 55. Since I turned 18 and had the right to vote, I'm guessing now. Guessing. If I put all of the elections I was eligible for, spring primary, spring general, fall primary, fall general, special elections, I'm guessing maybe I missed 10 or fewer elections in my lifetime where I just either I forgot or was out of town or something like that. So that's not too bad over that many years, missing single-digit type of elections. But I always think about what I'm thinking about, like a day like today when it's cold. I think about the men and women who have been on battlefields since this country was founded and how cold they were and how hungry they were and how scared they were and how brave they were. And they fought and many died to give me the opportunity to vote, to go vote in every election. And I think, well, if they can do that, the least I can do is get my sorry keister off my couch and put on a heavy jacket and brave a little cold weather to do the duty, my patriotic duty, that they gave their lives for, because they can't vote today. So I hope all of us think of that. I know it's not always convenient to go vote, but people died so that we had the privilege and the right to go vote. And in today's world, it's more important than ever that we exercise that right. So go vote, be a voter, as Luke likes to say. If you don't know where, maybe you've moved recently, simply go to on your phone, on your computer, dial up the old internet, and go to myvote.wi.gov. myvote.wi.gov. Stands for government, gov. You type in your address, it'll tell you. Zomers is putting up for all those watching on the live stream. Thank you, Zomers. It's really easy. I've done it when I moved before. It'll tell you where your polling place is at. If you're a new voter to that polling place, simply take a legal ID, which is a valid Wisconsin-issued driver's license. Remember, it does not have to be what's known as a real ID now, the one with the star in it to use as for traveling. Just a regular old driver's license. Make sure it's valid, all right, from the state of Wisconsin, or a state ID card that's valid, or a U.S. passport that's valid, or a government military, U.S. government military ID that's valid. Take one of those. Also going to want to take a recent utility bill, like a phone bill or electric, water bill type of thing. Remember, in Wisconsin, it does not have to be a paper version. If you can pull it up on your phone, they'll accept an electronic version. You can register same day in Wisconsin at the polls. And the big race, every voter in Wisconsin being asked today to vote for Department of Public Instruction. This is the person that oversees all public schools in Wisconsin. The incumbent, Dr. Jill Underly, running as a Democrat. They're nonpartisan, but a Democrat. Fellow Democrat Jeff Wright, who is a superintendent of public schools in Sauk Prairie, who's been on this program. And the Republican-backed candidate, Brittany, I can't say her last name. I'll get it for you in a second. Sorry, I had a brain fart, so to speak there. So one of those three candidates will win tonight. Two of the three will move on and face each other in the general election on April 1st. Brittany Kinzer, pardon me. See, that's what happens when you try to do things from memory, Zommers.
Yeah.
I learned that long ago from my radio mentor, Ron Fruit, who said, always write things down in front of you. Don't try to do it because sure enough, just when you think you'll never forget something, you forget it. You look like a fool. And
It happens. It happens to everybody. Performance anxiety, you know.
Performance, whatever. That could go a lot of ways. 40 minutes now past the hour, 1 o'clock. Be a voter today. Lots of local races as well. If you're in the La Crosse area, big La Crosse mayor primary up there. Our own Jimmy Kuska will be following that race today in Mauston, Wisconsin. They are determining whether or not their school district will survive. Many local races across the state. So be a voter today. You will not be sorry that you did. And speaking of local news, things like that in our local communities, local news is struggling across America. Local newspapers started disappearing because their ad revenue was lost to Google, other web platforms. But now even online news may be in trouble. Now, this is troubling because, a lot of these publications like weekly newspapers, even daily newspapers, online news, you go to the website, right, to read the news. Well, apparently now even that is in trouble because people are increasingly simply avoiding news altogether. A survey by IPSOP and American Communities Project found that 40% of Americans are avoiding online news sites. They said they spend zero or next to zero time reading news online. People surveyed said they pick up news from social media and chatting with neighbors, family, and friends. 44% of Americans said, quote, I learn more about what's happening in my community on social media than through the news, unquote. 44% said that. A third of Americans said, quote, I rely on friends and family to tell me what important things happen in the community, unquote. Asked why they're avoiding the news, 2 in 5 Americans said, I avoid the news because it's depressing. I hear that from a lot of people. Another 1 in 5 said, I avoid news because it does not really impact my life. I understand the sentiment. It's not true, but I understand the sentiment. Here's the issue. Democracy depends upon citizens' ability to make informed decisions about their leaders and their policies. That applies to democracy at the local level as much as at the state and national level. Civic Media and its partners are on a mission to tell truthful news so we can help keep democracy alive. I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for being a Civic Media community member. When you listen, when you participate with your calls, your texts, and emails, you, my friends, each and every one of you is participating in democracy, and it is important. Now, so more than ever. 44 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock. A few more people calling and text. Oh, by the way, Terry Bubble, wonderful and talented Terry Barr here at Civic Media, checking in, saying my parent on YouTube, saying my parents believed in watching news together and chatting about it. You and me both, Terry. I mean, we come from a generation, I think, where, well, I mean, not to sound too old manish, but there was a time when the family was still all expected to be home and eat dinner together, whether that was at 5:30 or 6 or 6:30. Dinner's at 6 o'clock. Be here. Be home. And you sat down and you discussed the day's news. Like I've told this story before. My granddad was a farmer. Dinner would usually be on the table by 5:30, sometimes 6. And he'd turn on Walter Cronkite or Dan Rather, and he would watch the evening news without fail. And Lord help you, if you tried to ask him a question in the middle of the evening news, you'd get a hush now. Here now. And that was it. There was no debate. There was no, but you
and
knew.
That's how it was.
Right. And that's the way it was. But, times change. Technology, the internet, changed how we perceive things. When Walter Cronkite, known as Uncle Walt, told you at the end of the newscast, and that's the way it was, or that's the way it is, you believed him. And now there's a lot more doubt. There's always been corporate influence in news, obviously, at the big levels. But I think for those of us who went to school, went to college, and studied journalism and communication, there was a pride, and there still is. I don't want to say there doesn't exist anymore. But people who go into journalism for the right reasons, there's a pride that you're there to suss out the truth for your readers, your listeners, your viewers, and you're doing a community service. There was a time when editors and publishers valued that. That's what sold. Getting the big scoop, bringing the truth, exposing injustice. But with the advent of the internet, we've gotten more into the entertainment side of it all. It's about the clicks, the views, the ratings. Zomer?
Yeah, and I also can't totally blame people for tuning out, aside from the depressing thing, but news websites are garbage.
Many of them.
A lot, not all, but many,
Right.
especially on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be so many ads everywhere,
Yes.
even if you're paying for it,
right,
that you can see probably 20 to 30% of your screen. And a phone is already not that big.
Right.
And it's miserable. It's awful. So if you want quality news, not only do you have to pay for it, you have to suffer to get it a lot of the time.
That's a really great point.
And that's by design.
Yeah, because they want you to click on the ads to pay for it, right? So that's just another, I appreciate that, Terry. It's another great example of why I'm proud to work here. I enjoy working here because things like tonight, bringing you the governor's state budget address. It's important because what he did a month ago was the state of the state. It's more encompassing, it's more cheerleading. Tonight is going to be a bit more, for many people, boring, but actually probably in many ways more important, because the governor is going to be laying out the most important action every 2 years in state government, the biennial budget, how our tax dollars are being spent. His proposal for that. Not just political programs, but how he proposes to spend our money. And then the legislature, via what's called the Joint Finance Committee, or JFC, most powerful committee in the state legislature, they will hold hearings. And legislators will make motions on how to spend that money. And they'll incorporate that in the Joint Finance Committee, which is overwhelmingly controlled by Republicans, the majority party in both the Senate and the Assembly. They'll pass that. Then it will go to the governor. And they'll have to hash out which way it goes. An important address tonight. Join us tonight at 10 minutes before 7. Join us after this on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Elliot, listening in from Panama.
Panama?
He
Elliot?
doesn't live there, but it says, my parents pay over $400 a year for the local newspaper that's thinning by the year, and you can't get online access without a subscription and all those pesky pop-ups. Hold on a second, Elliot. Are your parents funding the local newspaper themselves? That's ludicrous. That has to be voluntary, extra donation level. If it's $400 a year for the local newspaper, no wonder they're going under. That's insane.
I'd be interested to know more, Elliot, but I know some subscriptions are well over $100.
But 400?
Yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
I don't know.
Supporting local businesses is great, but I can't pay $400 a year for a newspaper.
Few people can, yeah. I'm trying to think like what.
Good for them though.
I think if you get like the Sunday, like 7 days of the State Journal or whatever, if you're not on one of the sales, I think it's. I don't want to say it's not cheap anymore. In other words, I think it's north of $100. It maybe closer to $200 for the year. I don't know, but again, it's with the value you put into that. I've gotten away from it, but I still enjoy reading a paper. I'm a tactile guy, as Almers knows from Board Game of the Week. I like tactile things, so I like holding a paper in my hands. I will say that I've gotten away from that over the years. Elliot says, that's funny you say that, because at this point they consider it their donation to local news. Well, good for them.
So it makes sense in that way.
Yeah. Zomer's judging Elliot. Good Lord. Come on.
Not judging Elliot. Judging his
You're
parents.
judging his parents. Yes. That's exactly right.
No, I'm not judging them either. I'm judging the organization charging $400 a year, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. Inflation makes everything look big. Every number. Gotta clarify that.
Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC or CBS News, depending upon which of the Civic Media stations you're listening to, followed by news in your area by our local news teams across the state of Wisconsin. A check of weather with our great weather team. Of course, many severe cold watches and warnings in effect for tonight into midday tomorrow around much of the state. Bundle up, temperatures well below zero, especially with the wind chills. Expect temperatures to warm by the weekend, but make sure you are prepared for the cold weather over the next 24 or 48 hours or so. Sports with our great sports reporter Mike Clemens. Big game for the Badgers tonight. They try to continue the winning streak at home at the Kohl Center against the Illini. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with Sam, but it's one of those things that's funny, but it's not. I feel terrible for the guy that this was honoring, by the way. But Illinois retired one of their former players' jerseys over the weekend down there in Illinois at a home game. and it was a packed crowd, and the lights were dimmed at halftime or whatever it was. And so I said, in the past, like when Frank Kaminsky's jersey number was retired at Wisconsin, they have the banner in a box, like a wood box on the floor, and the metal, the bar and the metal wires are attached, and then they raise it up. It comes out of the box and raised up into the rafters. But the way Illinois did it is they rolled up the banner and had it on a pipe, and then it was already up there, and they turned on the spotlights and they pulled it to release it, and it unveiled exactly the way they intended. But whoever hung it upside down.
Oh.
It was more than awkward. So anyway, Illinois, I'm going to be interested to see tonight if any of the students are wearing, T-shirts upside down or anything like that. That'd be kind of funny, actually.
Probably something.
Probably something. So Illinois versus Wisconsin tonight, 6:30 p.m. broadcast time for the pregame show. Tip-off at 7:30 on our civic media stations in Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, Racine, Kenosha, and Richland Center. For the rest of the network, you can hear our special broadcast tonight at around 6:50, taking the airways for Governor Evers' budget address, and then our election coverage on Wisconsin Decides 2025, that DPI primary, along with other races around the state as well. Hope you'll join us for all of that. Coming up after our program today, Maggie Dawn. Maggie and Dom went on a little excursion this weekend, I hear. And
I
so
hear that they did.
I'm anxious to hear about how that went down. So Maggie's back today, as well as Dom Salvia after her. And then you got poor Pete Schwaba. He starts out, and then we're going to hone in on his great program with election night stuff. But
although I do hear that his show tonight, in case you miss it, you can either listen to it on the stream tonight, or they are going to replay the biggest interviews on Friday.
Oh, that's fantastic. Look at that. We don't want to miss Pete's show at 6 o'clock with Night Light as well. All right, now it is 5 minutes before the hour of 2 o'clock. Cindy on the phone line from Appleton, 855-752-4842. One of our great listeners over there in Appleton. Cindy, thanks for calling in. Are you keeping warm over there in the home of Harry Houdini?
Come on, Todd. This is the weather all those Wisconsinites wish for.
Right? A hearty soul. A hearty soul. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Anyway, the only thing I'm hanging upside down is my flag these days. And speaking of the budget, I have heard, and I have on very good authority, that the Republicans are planning on absolutely eliminating from the budget completely and permanently monies for the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund. So if you're as upset about that as I am, I'm asking you to call your state legislators and tell them to scrap that stupid idea.
Yeah, that would be tragic, to say the least. The Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, which goes a long way towards conservation projects in this state, a bipartisan project, by the way. So that's interesting, Cindy. I appreciate that perspective and information. We'll see what the Republicans do with this. But yeah, that would certainly be a tragedy if that happens. This preview by Laura Schulte in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel today. Tony Evers to propose $2 billion in tax cuts to help farmers. The upcoming budget address tonight says Evers is putting forward a new 2-year spending plan. He says will provide nearly $2 billion in tax relief, blunt the impact of tariffs on farmers, and provide tens of millions of dollars for programs to boost students' reading skills. The Democratic governor will release his 25-27 state budget tonight, that is, a spending plan that Evers says aims to help Wisconsinites navigate the economic pressures of inflation, according to excerpts of the speech provided by the governor's office ahead of his primetime address. That's going to be another thing I'm looking for tonight in this budget address. We talked about this a little bit before. A friend of mine last weekend said, if I were the governor, I'd start out by saying, Speaker Voss has said this budget is dead on arrival. And you know what? He might be right. But not because of anything that Speaker Voss, the Republicans, are doing, because of what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing, because of their purge of needed federal employees. That's going to impact programs in Wisconsin. Federal money that Wisconsinites rely on. So that means that those programs are just going to go away forever. Or Wisconsin is going to have to pick up the cost of some of those things through the $4 billion surplus we have right now in the state. I think that'd be an interesting way to start. By the way, another friend of mine I was talking to last night that said that right now with federal employees, you have the people who are incompetent and can't get a job, or you have the people who are really competent and stay out of service. The people who Trump and Musk are getting rid of are the competent people. Something to noodle on. Be with us later on tonight. Stay tuned now for Maggie Dawn. For Zommers, I'm Allbaugh. Thank you to Luke Mathers and all of you for listening. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. See you later.
And they will hear you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Adios.